15 love.
And not showing any signs of nerves. Dropping a nice tee serve to open us off.
His serve has been the bedrock of his game this week. Sonego, we mentioned the fact he's only been broken 3 times over the course of the 3 matches.
Early on, I'm taking a look at Learner Tien's hamstring. He had a little bit of a hamstring pull going into his previous round. You can see there's a little tape on it. Just want to see how he's getting in and out of the corners.
There were some suggestions before his previous round that he may not last the distance, but he was able to battle through. Has of course had to come through qualies this week, so has already played 6 matches here in Melbourne.
Guys, for me, I don't know about you, but looking at Learner Tien and seeing him run around that backhand and look for the forehand, that kind of seems to be a good sign for him as far as the hamstring's concerned. You know, definitely if the hamstring is not feeling great, then you're typically just going to stick to your standard forehand or backhand, but he's still looking to get around the ball and be aggressive with the forehand.
That's well done. That's what we were talking about a bit in the pre-match, really going around that forehand. I love the way he creates space when he gets around the forehand. He doesn't let that ball get into his body too much. He gets all the way around it, and it's just a beautiful strike here as he opens up the court.
He likes to play a lot of his tennis from that backhand corner, doesn't he? Using that shot as and when he can. That'll do nicely to open proceedings here.
First game.
Yeah, he's been able to win titles on all 3 surfaces, this guy. It's not too many out there that have achieved that. He's been pretty versatile.
Well, so much has been said about all of these young Italians, and then you have guys like Sonego who have been out there for a long time, veteran presence who has played well over 300, I think is what we saw in the pre-match, matches on tour. So he's certainly no stranger to playing in big matches. I saw a few years ago he played on center court Wimbledon against Nadal in the later rounds of Wimbledon. So he has been on the big stage.
In terms of outcomes here and anticipating who might win this one, let's have a little look at the win predictor, see if it ties in with what we're thinking.
I'm going 55. Oh, I was going to say 55 for Lerner. I would love to be able to adjust to what I was saying as I saw the 55 graphic, but I was going to go slight lean to Learner Tien.
Almost right.
Well, I did see that 55 come up on the screen
Love 15.
as I was taking a look at what we were thinking win predictor wise. I thought about changing it, but you got to hold yourself accountable up here.
Love 13.
Well, this is a little bit of an early hole. Tien, not the biggest serve as we take a look in the box. Coach Eric Diaz, that's Kent Kinnear, head of men's tennis for the USTA, and Satoshi Ochi, our head of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, must give a big shout out to Christian Groh as well, who does a lot of work, has done a lot of work with Learner in San Diego.
That's good stuff there from the Italian. Again, using that forehand from the middle of the court. And that's an excellent point. Christian Groh, I got to know him very well when he was a part of Tommy Haas's team, the former world #2. He traveled with Tommy for a long time and has really played a part in developing a lot of our young Americans, as has his coach on the court with him, Eric Diaz, who was very instrumental in developing Alex Mickelson before he's moved on and now working with Robbie Ginepri.
Game Sonego. Sonego leads 2 games to love for sets.
Yeah, guys, let's keep an eye again. You know, we were discussing that hamstring earlier on in the match, and sure enough, you know, after he hit that last serve, he kind of pulled up his right leg, and you know, maybe it's a little bit sore, a little tight, and hopefully it warms up for him. But let's definitely keep an eye on that serve. And definitely in his first round match, he had 16 double faults, but was able to get through that. So he's going to need to make a few more first serves to give himself a better chance there.
Yeah, this is completely uncharted waters. Let's not forget for the American lefty.
Well, for the Italian, he's a player to me that has a very high level of variance in the tennis he's able to produce. There's sometimes you come out there and he is absolutely incredible, and there's other times where his game looks to be a bit off. He's a really big momentum player. So getting an early start here, getting an early break under his belt, sometimes you can see him start to get really fired up and he just starts producing magical shot after magical shot.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned kind of different levels to Sonego's game. You know, in his last round against Fabian Marajan, he was down a set, and in the second set tiebreaker, he was down 6-3 in the breaker. Didn't seem like he was finding his game. All of a sudden, won that tiebreaker, and then went on a tear to win 6-1, 6-2 in the third and fourth. So it definitely, his level can go up and down, but when it's up, you better watch out.
And Nick, sitting down there courtside on that previous point, it looked like that ball wasn't struck all that fast, but Learner didn't really break for it. Did you see him pull up a little bit there, or was that just in anticipating that the ball might go out?
Yeah, I think it's more anticipating the ball would go out, but I'm definitely keeping a close eye on that right leg. You know, as I said, in one of the last serve he hit, he kind of pulled up with the knee, so let's just keep an eye on it on the movement side.
Let's for serve. 30 all.
A good number of first serves early on, 7 from 10. His titles coming in Antalya on the grass, an event, of course, that no longer exists in Turkey. That was just before Wimbledon 2019. That was the first one. He then won in Cagliari on the clay a couple of years later, and then in Metz indoors and Winston-Salem. So he has ticked a lot of boxes in terms of producing on different surfaces.
40-13.
It's always disappointing when you get a title in a city and then it doesn't come back there, because you always have good memories and you look forward to going back in those cities throughout the world where you have those special memories. For some reason, us tennis players, we associate cities with how we played in that city.
Producing a fair bit of heat earlier on.
Sonego leads 3
Here's
games
Lorenzo
love
Sonego, who has made a fast start to this one as he grabs the opening 3 games. Yeah, very good friends with Jannik Sinner. He is Lorenzo, isn't he? They've played a bit of doubles together over the years. From a similar part of Italy, that northern part of Italy, so they know each other very well.
Yeah, when you see a player like Sinner,
The American trying to get on the board here.
well, that's a good start here. He went 0 for 4 on first serves in that first service game. Not the start he was looking for, but good getting the best foot forward there with an ace to start this service game. I do anticipate to see him leaning heavily on that lefty slice serve that plays naturally into the Sonego backhand.
How? 40 love.
He's made it.
Lerner looked a bit confused. He was thinking that that was going to push wide. It does indeed catch the outside of the line.
Nice counter. And the teenager is
Sonego
up and
leads
running
3
here.
games to 1.
And the teenager has covered a lot of ground, as we will see from this particular illustration. This includes qualifying, let's not forget, but that is extraordinary.
Well, that's a big difference, and those meters will accumulate over the tournament. And as we talked about the hamstring injury that he's been having to overcome right now, it's a lot of steps on a body that's only 19 years of age.
Well, guys, I'm actually texting a little bit right now with Craig
15
O'Shaughnessy.
love.
He owns an analytics company, Brain Game. He's been working with the Italian Federation for about 8 years, and he said he's been working really closely with Lorenzo starting this year. And the game plan in this match is to go after Lerner's forehand, attack his second serve, and get to the net as much as possible. So he's been doing that so far. We'll see if he continues.
Well, right on cue, Nick. The Italian is a very solid volleyer up there and covers the net really well.
30 love.
I love to see the way he keeps closing forward after this first volley. He could have hit that first volley a little bit better, but still getting himself up in position to cover the net. You can see here, he moves in quickly, gets that ball high, and then continues moving on in and right on top of the net for the finisher.
Craig O'Shannessy. Wasn't Craig based in Austin, guys?
Yeah, he sure is based in Austin. Ryan, I'm a little confused. You said he practiced with Andy, his service so big, and you knew you wouldn't face anything like that. But we practiced a lot together in Austin, buddy. I moved there because of you and Andy. Come on.
Yeah, Nick,
give me a shout out, big
your
dog.
serve was massive as well. Just Andy had a little bit more variety on it. That was it. The speed was about the same.
Okay, gotcha.
Guys, I feel like I need to move to Austin just to be part of this conversation. What's going on?
Nick, we'd always welcome another Nick, you know?
He's sprinting forward there. And yeah, for my American Nick counterpart down there, we would have to get Nick up in the booth out on the track with us, wouldn't we, to race him in those 90s, 100s, 120s?
I've got a bit of a hamstring injury at the moment, Ryan.
He's already pulling out the excuses, isn't he? I mean, I thought he was going to move. Now the excuses are coming.
Love it.
Listen, guys, I've got 3 daughters at home, okay? I've got plenty of excuses, all right? It's causing some problems at the moment.
Sonego leads 4 games to 1.
Overwhelming Learner Tien early stages. Sonego is looking sharp, 4-1.
Time.
.55 in the world. Lorenzo Sonego has been as high as 21. If he can win here today, a look at the live ranking, we'll see him make a nice jump in terms of his position. Win here today will send him around close to a place in the top 30 again. So clearly the points as well as the prize money significant, as we know at the majors.
Well, that top 30 remark is a big mark to try and get seeded at these majors. If you get to top 30, you don't have to play a fellow seed until at least the 3rd round.
Love.
guys, when I was commentating Lerner's match against Medvedev, I was very impressed with his fitness. He was able to stay out there for a very long time to beat Medvedev, and I was able to speak with his fitness trainer, Rodney Marshall. They did a lot of work in LA with Alex Mickelson, Taylor Fritz, Marcos Giron. And it was about a 5-week block, and he said every Saturday they were on the beach, and Lerner was just an absolute beast on the fitness side of things. So you want to see if he can hopefully get this hamstring moving, if he can last a distance.
Well, that's well done. He's responded really well to that early hiccup, maybe just shaking off a few nerves in the early stages. Good to know he has that fitness block behind him just in case he has to go the distance. We know he's fit enough.
He was down a set and a break, first round qualies, let's not forget. Like Grégoire Barrère, Frenchman. This feel like about a month ago now. You give some time to Lorenzo Sonego on that forehand. At the moment, he is pummeling it.
He's so fast getting around that middle ball. You never see him take a forehand from the middle of the court. Excuse me, a backhand. He's always taking forehand. That's well done. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-match, his ability to transition and have a very high conversion percentage when he does. Gets in so fast as soon as he recognizes his opponent is out of court.
Let's have a look at the +1 numbers, which are obviously fairly significant for the Italian. Early stages, but this will go to just illustrate that he's able to dictate the point so often right off that serve.
Yeah, 89%. That tells you that every time he hits that serve, he is always looking for the first ball forehand, and anything down the middle, he gets around it very quickly. Knowing his weapons, playing to his strengths.
Out.
Yeah, guys, Sonego testing that hamstring right there. But, you know, you mentioned that serve +1 off the forehand. Sonego reminds me a lot of a boxer. He's got such quick twitch muscles, and even, you know, the coin toss, he was bouncing around, showing Learner Tien he was ready to go the distance. But I just love how quick he is around the ball. So many small steps. You can hear his feet screeching on the court. That's what you want to be as an athlete.
Yeah, interestingly, he actually did his pre-season at Nadal's Academy in Mallorca. Spent a couple of weeks down there training in Mallorca. It's become a pretty popular spot, that, understandably so, if you've ever been there. There's more courts than you could wish to almost cover half the island, I think, that academy. It's so big. Impressive place.
Guys, that was better shot tolerance
30,
from Learner Tien,
15.
but on the point before that, when Sonego hit the forehand down the line, Learner was running in my direction, and once the ball went past him, he kind of had a grimace on his face, moving in that direction, trying to get there that quickly. So keep an eye on that for sure when he's on my side.
Seen him sneak in with a serve and volley a couple times.
15.
Always find it fascinating now that they're at the later stages of their career, having played against Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and early on in the mid portion of their career, they were not giving much away about their secrets to success with their training, and it's been fascinating for me to see them start to share some of those training resumes with everybody else.
Not at the moment
New balls
able to
plays
make too
for
much of an
change.
impact on the Italian server.
Sonego leads 5 games to
Is
2.
Learner Tien, who trails 5-2 opening set. Someone's got to make a documentary one day, haven't they, where they get all 4 of those guys in one room and they just get to talk it out. That would be a cool watch, wouldn't it?
The different styles in which they train, and I also love to see the way it evolved. I think about Andy Murray and earlier stages in his career. He based a lot in Miami, and everyone would talk about seeing him out at the track all November, all December, when it's still quite hot in Florida during the off season. And then as his body started to get a few nicks and bumps, he talked about using the VersaClimber a lot more and using that as his fitness machine. And Andy obviously being one of the most fit guys. Good guy to emulate.
Yep. No stone unturned was left by Andy Murray. He's now, of course, in the coaching corner. New balls, the American, looking to prolong this opening set.
Oh.
Love 15.
From a strategic standpoint, in order to make his way back into this match, he's going to have to exploit opening up that Sonego forehand side. With the amount of ground that he gives to get around the forehand from the middle of the court, he'll leave himself exposed over there a bit. And oftentimes, if you go over there with the first ball, you can open up the side of the backhand. It makes it a little more comfortable to get to the Sonego backhand, which is absolutely what Tien will need to expose in this match.
$15-13. $30-all.
Had a quick look at Sonego's record against lefties over the last couple of years. It's actually not that great, which again you can kind of understand given the matchup. Last season was 4-6 on the main tour against the Southpaws.
Game
Well, the
10.
natural tendency is exactly what you just saw there. The lefties grow up learning how to
Sonego
use
needs
that
5
slice
games
serve. It's a
to
very
3.
comfortable serve. It stays low and it exposes the right-hander's backhand side. And that left-handed forehand side, a lot of lefties work on hooking the outside of the ball and working it off the court to the right-hander's backhand side. It is something that we saw Rafael Nadal do to perfection over the course of 2 decades. He would expose people over there and really open you up before putting the put away to the open court. That's beautiful.
15 love.
Well, as we were hearing and exposing that Tien forehand side, he's able to get around the slice, just sat up a little bit too much.
Yeah, that's the danger with the slice, isn't it? Because you do just give Sonego a fraction more time because of that if you don't hit it aggressively.
All.
One of these guys that didn't really play a whole lot of tennis up until his mid-teens. He certainly was a very good footballer. Did a lot of soccer, as you guys would call it, in his early days, and really only kind of picked tennis up more seriously when he was 13, 14 years of age. Too dissimilar, of course, to Sinner in that department.
Well, that's well done, getting up there quickly. We've seen Sonego use the drop shot effectively a couple times early on, but just telegraphed that one a bit soon. Opening up the racket face a little bit too much, and it sits up, and Tien there in plenty of time. Oh, how about that?
Boys, how about those wheels? I mean, that, you know, when you think about the preseason and for Learner Tien every Saturday hitting the beach, doing those workouts with Alex Mickelson, Taylor Fritz, and those guys, that definitely paid off on that running forehand there.
Not had a sniff on serve so far, and a couple of chances to break back here.
That's a good response. Sometimes when a player hits a shot of that magnitude, it can carry over and it can draw a mistake from your opponent as the momentum builds, but the veteran experience, Sonego finding a first serve.
He has done a great job this week of saving break points. He's actually the leader throughout the tournament in terms of break points saved. 19 of 22, 86% that is. If you look at his career numbers, He's in the early 60s, so there's been a big spike in that department here in Melbourne.
Advantage Sonego.
It's number 3. Brings up a first set point.
Just a little visible tension down there, Nick. Can you see what he's saying to his team over there?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think he senses the moment, right? He senses that, hey, if I get this set up 1-0, you know, Learner Tien maybe not feeling the hammy, not really too much tension. He's very positive with his coach normally. And, yeah, he'll need another big first serve here.
That's beautiful. Well, to your point, he's now found 5 consecutive first serves from that 15-40 hole and gives himself another set point opportunity. And it does start to build your confidence and build in your mind whenever you start to answer those sorts of opportunities faced in a positive way. It starts to give you that sort of composure in the moment. This is where we talk about the maturity of Tien, just hanging around, not giving in, just being that presence, just in case we see Sonego blink. Longest game of the match here, closing in on 7.5 minutes.
Advantage Sonego.
Just coming in from a little deep, wasn't he? And he got exposed because of it.
Deuce.
He's been holding really without any issues until this game. And this is a different story.
Time violation warning, Sonego.
Oh,
That is tough timing. He's in the middle of the toss there, and that's not the best from the chair.
Advantage, Sonego.
You can see how far he's willing to go just to try and hit the forehand. I mean, that in all other matches is a backhand for everybody else on tour, and he's still committed to try and get around it. You can see he gets so far around it here. He is outside of the doubles alley.
yeah, just overcommitted, didn't he? Too early. Utilising that serve very nicely.
Advantage, Sonego.
Now, we've seen him rely on that quite heavily in this game, where he's faced a few deuce opportunities for Tien.
Gone wide about 60% of the time so far on the deuce side as Sonego.
Tien moving over quite a lot here on this second serve.
Good look at the one up the line. And a little bit of frustration from the American. Not for the first time here at Melbourne. Finds himself behind the 8 ball. 6-3, Sonego in front. Here, looking to add Tien to the list.
Well, takes out the multiple Grand Slam champion in the first round, and then many people have dubbed Fonseca to be a future Grand Slam champion in the second round.
Nick, what do you make of what you're seeing down there, and what Learner needs to try and address here in set 2? It's a little too much pressure. Yeah, Nick, not sure you caught that. Just
that was a big backhand cross court. But for Learner Tien, I mean, I think I agree with Ryan here. I think he needs to attack the forehand side a bit more of the Italian. But then also, one thing he did against Medvedev, once he won a few points and got some gains, he started getting the crowd involved, and they really got behind him, and that gave him a little bit of an energy boost as well. So I think if he can get the crowd involved, that would help too. Because I felt like actually when they announced the names of the players coming out, I mean, the crowd erupted for Learner Tien. I mean, they're so excited to see this 19-year-old and what he's bringing to the table. Obviously, haven't beaten Medvedev, so I think they're ready to get behind him.
Well, that's something you learn with a little bit of experience, right, Nick, as you start to learn how to use the crowd in your favor, even on days where you're not feeling your best, and you just use their energy to help you turn it around.
Game Tien. First game,
Yeah,
second
no,
set.
for sure, Ryan. And look, I haven't really seen any signs of nerves from Learner Tien. I mean, we discussed early on in this match how cool, calm, and collected of a player he is. I mean, when I saw him against Medvedev, I mean, he's gliding across the baseline with nearly a smile on his face as he's grinding away with Medvedev and taking time away from him. And, so again, it looks like the occasion never really affects him. So I don't see that as anything that's getting him right now. But I think it's just more so maybe a little bit more clarity of hitting into the forehand of Sonego and then start getting this crowd going. I think that would help him.
Pressure points very much been dominated by Lorenzo Sonego. Of course, they are effectively the big points over the course of a match, the 30-alls, the sorts of scenarios. Sonego so far has played them well. Learner Tien looking to build on a strong start to set 2.
Just catches the top of the net there, but after the first game where Tien got broken and was down a quick hole 0-3, he did really well in the first set to fight back. He kept it at 1 break and then was so close to breaking back as the Italian was trying to serve for the first set. So he's definitely been building momentum as this match has developed.
Yeah, guys, after that serve went down the tee, Learner Tien was moving for it and then kind of hobbled a little bit as he was trying to catch his balance after that, trying to get that ace. But, again, we're just going to keep keeping an eye on that hamstring, and over time, hopefully, he keeps loosening up.
Does a great job of just keeping that poker face, doesn't he, Learner? Not a man for giving a whole lot away.
Well, in his previous match against the Frenchman, who's known for a lot of antics and a lot of different things going on, I thought he did an incredible job of just focusing on his side of the court, not paying attention to what was going on the other side, and really showing a lot of experience and composure that maybe his match count doesn't show, but he's a very experienced player in a matter of matches won early on in tour. He won 60 matches last year.
Game, Sonego.
Across all levels, that is.
1 game over.
Yeah, won 63 of 77. That is ridiculous going at any level.
That's an incredible amount of matches won, and that conversion percentage on the amount of matches played also very impressive.
Oh. Second serve. Let. Second serve. Love 15.
That's just incredible depth in the ball from Sonego.
Love 13.
We've talked about the forehand being the side that does the damage as you see him catching the back of the line there, but it's the previous shot, that backhand, he got such good depth on that was able to get him in control of the point, and then he can turn around and take control with the forehand side on the next strike.
love 14.
Yeah, guys, one thing Learner Tien did really well against Medvedev and Mute was using the backhand slice. You know, if a guy is in such a rhythm like Sonego is right now, maybe using some backhand slice to change up the pace, get it a little bit lower, even some short slice to bring him in, as he did against Medvedev. That's well within his range.
15-14.
Yeah, you've got to start looking at a way to get that rally production going in your favor. It's a little dangerous with Sonego because he moves around it so well when the ball does slice and goes a little slower through the air.
Game, Sonego.
3 doubles in the game and a couple that he's rather
Sonego
collapsed
2
on.
games to 1, second set.
And is he beginning to feel the physical effects of the fortnight here? Down a set and a break.
Well, quite a slow walk back there to the bench. You could see him laboring a bit. Sometimes when you do have that fatigue or slight injury in the legs, it can really affect your first serve. We're seeing most of those service mistakes come in the net. And at the very top of the net, we heard it hit the tape a few times, and when you're not getting that full leg drive that you're used to, just adjust your contact point a little bit lower than you're expecting, and you find yourself with a lot smaller margin for error.
Extra serve.
Yeah, guys, Learner Tien didn't quite give that quick step that you would need to get that running forehand there, and had a little grimace on his face as he was running in my direction.
Yeah, that's not a great sign, is it?
Well, beautiful hands there at the net. He's doing so well in transition.
30.
There's those numbers. First serve percentage news, 70% today, Ryan.
Yeah, he's doing very well on the first serve percentage, especially when you get a break early on in the sets. You want to keep that first serve percentage up, not open the door too much for your opponent.
Yeah, and more importantly, when he is making it, he's won 24 of 29 points.
Out. Out. 40 love.
Just not giving him any time on the ball, is he?
And he's getting up in the court really quickly as soon as the ball drops short off of Tien. You can see Tien is quite a ways behind the baseline for his return hit points, and that's usual for him. He likes to be hanging back a bit, but if he doesn't get depth on the ball and the ball drops too short, he'll be running right away.
Game, Sonego. Sonego leads 3 games to 1.
Amazing partnership he had with Cipo Arpino, who taught Lorenzo the game pretty much from the moment he picked up a racket. And he was there all the way until last season, and Lorenzo put a heartwarming message actually on social media to talk about almost a second father that Cipo had been to him.
Love,
Certainly
15.
a constant in Italian tennis. It seems to me that a lot of the players that come on the tour are able to stay with their developmental coaches. There's not a lot of chopping and changing when you look at the sort of the thread of the Italian men. Think, of course, of Massetti, who's been with his coach pretty much his whole life.
Well, you see that a lot from these successful guys. Continuity is a very important key when you're trying to see a project through. It's no different than I always use the analogy, if you're building a house, if you change the architect every year, you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to have somebody have the capacity to see their vision through.
Let's for serve.
And they know the player, right, Ryan? That's important as well. They know the person, not just the tennis player. They know the individual, which obviously is so key.
No question about it. That trust that you build to be able to get in their ear in a pivotal moment, it takes time. It takes you developing that relationship to when you have all the chips on the table, such as a Grand Slam round of 16. Beautiful return there. To have that trust in them whenever something's going on mid-match and really commit that they are in the same vision as you with the way that you want to be playing. Throughout my playing days, I always maintained the stance that I wanted someone to really feel it with me. If we won, if we lost, it felt like a team effort. And those are the people that you listen to whenever you need to hear the hard truths at times.
First serve. Deuce.
He's made it somehow.
Guys, he made that shot, but after he made it, he turned my way, and there was definitely a little grimace of a look on his face. So all this stretching that he's having to do to stay in these rallies, because Sonego is absolutely pumping the ball. There's been so much power behind it, depth, and you can see there just a little bit of a strain there in the face.
Right position, something he's employed regularly in this match. And the Italian still looking good here with a set and a break advantage.
Well, we've been talking about the return and the importance of depth on the return whenever you hang back a bit, and that's where you see Learner Tien a lot. He likes to hang back behind the court, and Sonego is up inside the court quite a bit. He likes to take the ball early. There's just a little different style behind the way that these guys like to return and make their way into the rallies. Learner Tien hanging back. You see a lot of players doing that, as Medvedev in that match with Tien. Both guys were quite a ways behind the court, and this is just a little bit of a different matchup, as Sonego going for a little bit of a different route, trying to put more pressure on. As we take a look here and look at where Tien's average return hit points is, it's interesting that he even backs up further on the second serve than the first serve, and the reason being is a lot of players like to hit that heavier spinning serve In the opposite way for Sonego, he tries to get that spin serve on the second serve even closer in before it gets up. Really interesting stuff.
Years of age is Lorenzo Sonego. He's been on tour for some time now, utilizing plenty of that experience at the moment against what seems like somewhat of an inhibited Learner Tien.
Oh.
That's just a bit short again, and that's what we were talking about a minute ago when we were saying that when you back up that far, it's really important to have good depth on the ball. If you back up and drop the ball short, there's just not much you can do. You can see this is well inside the service line, or actually just past the service line, but still not near deep enough. And Sonego all over it.
Wait, please.
Well, guys, just after that changeover, Learner went up to the chair and was asking for the trainer. So the trainer will be coming out at the end of these two games.
Oh.
You know, I think if you're Lorenzo Sonego, you just can't think about it. I think he knows that Learner Tien's struggling with the movement. He's got to stay well within his game plan of attacking the forehand of Learner and just really stay in the moment.
So that is good stuff from the American, testing that hamstring and doing a good job throwing that defensive lob up there just deep enough. The Italian wasn't able to put this overhead away, and then he does a really wonderful job, open stance slide, opening the court back up.
It's unplayable. Just an incredible shot. Caught the corner of both lines, I think.
Well, he knows his identity, right? He sticks to his guns and plays his style. That's that experience of having so many matches under your belt.
15 forehand winners today for Lorenzo.
Oh.
Just goes to show the disparity as well. He's actually had 16 winners off the forehand, but he's not had a single one off the backhand. So just goes to show the imbalance that there is in his game.
There's no question what the Tien game plan would be to expose, and it's just the trick is trying to implement it, and that's where it gets hard because Sonego is so good at knowing his identity, and he plays to his strengths as some of the best in the world do. They always try and get in those offensive positions with their best weapons. Well done.
Guys, you know what's interesting for me? I feel like when Learner Tien is moving to his forehand, he's actually able to slide into some of these defensive chip forehands or slide into some passing shots if he needs to. But once he's having to move to the right and say hit an open stance backhand or be a little bit more defensive, that's where that right leg is really coming more into play, and that's when the hamstring's affecting him.
Well, that's a good hold there, and again, going to that wide serve and the deuce side on those pressure points that are at deuce and 30 all. He's used that serve really, really cleverly. He's saved it for the biggest moments, and then he's had a lot of success whenever he's needed to go there.
Some fairly strong rumours swirling around before his match with Mute that he may not even be able to play that day. We were led to believe there were some significant issues with the hamstring, but he was able to get himself out there.
30-15.
Maybe it's just caught up with him here. Ended last season, of course, by making the final of the Next Gen finals in Riyadh. João Fonseca in that final.
Well, you just wonder at what point all those matches will eventually catch up to him. As we noted last year, he played so many matches, 63 wins, 17 losses, incredible conversion percentage, but still quite a lot of matches played. And then beginning this season with the Next Gen finals, it was played at the end of December, which led right up to the travels down here, and then having to go through qualifying as well. So lots of tennis under his belt.
40-30.
Bodes really well for the confidence, but sometimes the body and the accumulation on the body can just eventually catch up to you.
Deuce. Advantage Sonego.
didn't he? Did very well, Sonego.
Balls, please, will change.
And Learner Tien has dug himself a deeper hole, and the trainers are on their way to try and give him some aid.
Okay, John Cain Arena is sounding a little bit quiet, so I want to find out who you're supporting in this men's singles match. Who are you supporting? Lorenzo Sonego from Italy. And who are you supporting? Learner Tien from the United States of America.
Of course, there was a rule in place a few years ago that only recently changed, actually, that you couldn't get a medical timeout for a pre-existing injury, which kind of seemed to make sense, but they actually amended that rule, didn't they?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, I think the
Mr.
reason for
Tien
the
is now
amending on
receiving a
that
medical
rule was just
timeout.
because when you are playing with a pre-existing injury, there's always that chance that you can make it worse. If it's a slight pull and you're trying to play through it and do the honorable thing out there, push through the injuries, you never want to pull out in the middle of a tournament and do that to yourself, your team, the tournament itself. And I like that you can now get a treatment for that. I just think that it is a little bit of a risk when you're playing with something that you're hoping is not going to progress on and get worse, and sometimes you just need to get that expert opinion from the trainer to know if you're potentially making it worse as you play on, and you don't want to jeopardize the rest of your season. This is a really big moment for Learner Tien, but in the grand scheme of things for his development, the last thing you would want to see is him completely tear an injury in half and then miss several months or have to have a surgery or something of that nature just for the one match.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Ryan. And, you know, now Learner Tien, he's up to 80 in the world, according to the live ranking. So now he's inside the top 100. He's going to be main draw at, say, Wimbledon, U.S. Open. You know, has some challenger points to defend, possibly. But, you know, by the same token, you don't want to, as you said, jeopardize kind of what could happen the rest of the year. And, you know, I think it was a great amendment to the rule because at the end of the day, I mean, these players are out here trying to put on a show for the fans. They'd love to be out here playing as long as they can. And if that means that they need to get a little treatment to be able to give that little bit of extra, you know, that was the right rule.
Yeah, we always know the guys that are pulling up the phony medical timeouts, to put it lightly.
That doesn't happen, does it?
That might happen here or there, but you know, everyone tries to do something well within the rules. But obviously, right now for Learner Tien, this is more about, you know, how maybe tight can they strap this hammy to be able to help his movement. And again, where I see it the most is when he's moving to his backhand and having to use that right leg on an open stance backhand or a defensive shot to then push back off. You know, he's actually okay when he's having to move to his forehand, and we've seen a few slides with that left leg, and that's the side that's good for him right now. But you know, that's why Sonego's trying to open up to the backhand and to get back into the forehand. But hopefully Learner Tien will be able to tape this up enough and he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, Learner is one of those guys who's the ultimate disciplinarian, and you know, if he's taking a medical timeout, you know it's something very serious. He doesn't show you much, and when he does, it's always in a very respectful way. So he's a guy that, you know, to me, when he shows you something's bothering him, you know it's serious.
Yeah, he's going to be in and around 80 in the world after this fortnight, so
Time.
the schedule's going to look pretty different for the rest of the year as it was coming in here. Actually stay in the States as well, can't he, for a pretty long period now when you think of the events. Of course, Dallas, Delray, Indian Wells, Miami, of course, Acapulco. There's a lot in North America over the month of February, March. So plenty to look forward to. Sonego here, serving for a 2-set lead.
Love 15.
Well, it'll definitely be different than he's ever experienced before coming back to a sort of buzz after making the second week, regardless of what happens in this match when he goes to play at home and he's going to have that crowd support. He'll be getting promoted like he never has before. So it'll be a bit different just playing with more of a target on his back. Guys will know him, and at this stage in his career, he's come on as a young guy. He's gotten to show his game to these players who have very little data on him to date. As we were talking about in the pre-match and the strategy for Sonego, who was talking about exposing the Tien forehand, that's still a very small sample size. He's only played 12 matches on the ATP Tour level going in, and as that develops and you get more of a sample size, you get more of an accurate read on tendencies and service patterns. And that's exactly why it's difficult to stay at the top. Once you reach the top level, and then they always say it's one thing to get there, it's another thing to stay there, and that's because everyone gets that scouting report on you, and then you've got to adjust to what they are now doing to expose your weaknesses, and they all have these advanced analytics and numbers. The Italian here serving for 2 sets to love lead, 1 point away.
Game, second set.
That's beautifully done.
6 games to 2.
Yeah,
Trading
looking
leads by 2
very
sets to
impressive indeed. He's not blinked so far, has the Italian. And he's 1 set away from a first quarter-final at a major.
Yeah, you know, guys, I have quite a few fans even behind me that are just, you know, trying to yell at Learner, hey, leave it all out on the court, and they want to see more tennis, you know, so whatever he can do to, again, try to get the crowd involved, even if it's just kind of a fake, you know, I'm feeling good, you just want to show your opponent that you're not going to go anywhere.
Well, Nick, I don't know about you, but when I was playing, if I had some sort of laboring injury going on, I tried to transition more. I thought that getting into the net would shorten the points and make it a little bit more of a on my terms. And if I'm looking at the net points won today, Learner has only been to the net 5 times in this match over 2 sets. And when you have a little bit of an injury, I'd like to see him maybe try and transition a bit.
Yeah, that's a good call, Ryan. And I think also, you know, sometimes we think, okay, the transition game, you know, is on a ball that's kind of mid-court right at the service line, that's when you come in. But, you know, Learner might just need to kamikaze a little bit, just come in on some balls that he normally wouldn't come in on, just to show something different to Sonego.
Second serve. Game 10.
Well, that's a big second serve. 179 Ks.
Frustration in that one, wasn't there?
Yeah, he wasn't one to run much on that point, up 40 love. But look, from an experience standpoint, regardless of this match, it's an incredible experience for Tien. At this stage of the tournament, there's only 16 guys left, and when you walk in the locker room, it looks a lot different than it did on day one when you have all 128 singles and doubles, much more than that. You can't walk from your locker out of the locker room entirely without bumping shoulders with somebody early on, and now at this stage, you walk through the locker room and it's very much empty. You start seeing a few of those guys who are left over, and you see most of them are people you've been growing up watching on TV, and that's an invaluable experience for a guy at his age to have that sort of experience under his belt already. There we go. Defense to offense.
Love 15.
Yeah, might be an element of throwing caution to the wind a bit more here, you feel. First time since 1990 in a major that 3 teens have beaten 3 top 10 players. It's been a good fortnight for a couple of up-and-comers.
1990 teenagers. I wonder if I can get all 3.
Okay, I'm not sure I can give you all 3. I know a couple of them, I think.
Maybe
let's see it, Ryan. Let's see what you got.
So Agassi, I believe, was a teenager in 1990. I'm going to say Andre. Was he a teenager then? He had to have been close. Andre would be 1 pick. I'm going to go with Jim Courier.
Yeah, I think that's definitely 1. Greg Sharko's on it. You're just going to confirm that to me in a minute, those 3 names.
Beautiful. Learner Tien wanting to leave it all out there as the fans were calling for
Love
3 break points early on. Showing what he can do, moving to the left of that forehand side and just really ripping the outside of this ball. He creates a lot of angle despite being pretty far back in the court. Well, you were talking about how well he's done saving break points in the entire tournament. He's not going to let this go lightly.
Yeah, 21 of 24.
Oh.
Just didn't quite get the balance on the shot. And Learner Tien gets an early break in the 3rd.
Guys, the RPM definitely went up there on the forehand for Learner Tien, and I think he's realizing, like, hey, I'm not going to, use my shot tolerance to get back into this match. I got to play a little bit more first strike, especially on that forehand wing, and then what that might set up is a few more short balls to be able to get in.
Thank you, players ready. Thank you.
And I just love Learner Tien's reaction. He won that point. He's down 2 sets to love, but after he won it, he was hobbled a little bit, but he had a fist bump with his racket. You can tell that he's still engaged, trying to get this crowd involved.
And now you can hear the crowd, right? They want to see Learner get into this match, and they want to see him make a match out of this.
Suddenly adopting a more aggressive mindset. It's beginning to pay dividends.
40.
There he is. The young American is not done yet.
Tien leads 3 games to love.
Fast start to the 3rd, just what he needed and just what he's got.
30 love.
As you said there, just putting a little bit more life into the forehand, sensing he needs to play a little bit more on his terms. And even though he made the mistake, I like the intention.
Yeah, as you said, Ryan, I like that, the intention there in the previous point as well. I mean, you know, when you're returning and you're up 3 love, up a break, you know, Sonego is supposed to hold serve. So why not just play a little bit more aggressive? If you make it, great. If you don't, you know, save the legs for your service game, because you just want to be able to keep on holding to win the set.
Hold.
That's beautifully done.
40-50.
As we take a look here at second serve points won, Learner Tien is starting to do much better behind his second serve return, and it's opening the door a bit for him.
Game, Sonego.
Better get himself up and running, though.
Tien leads 3 games to 1.
Here's the Turin born and bred Lorenzo Sonego. We've got, of course, a ladies singles match to follow on here. It will take place early evening, the way things are unfolding. That's a good dig.
15 love. Oh.
Hold.
15-13.
I feel like it's all arm, isn't it? A little bit right now. There's not a whole lot of bend in the legs to utilize.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, in Lerner's first round match, he had 16 double faults. So that was an area that he shored up against Medvedev, though. And as we saw the graphic there, he's at 6. So definitely needs to make a few more first serves, though, because that second serve, Sonego is trying to jump all over it.
Well, that's good stuff there from the Italian.
30-14.
Using that slice to get the ball down really low. The American has to lift the ball, just changing the speed up a bit. And you see the Italian getting all the way around to inject that force in the forehand. Break back point.
Just coming in to the shadow and out of it. I don't know if that had any sort of impact. It's a little bit tricky where Sonego is now, isn't it?
As you see that shadow start to come across the court, and the ball as it passes through the shade into the lighted part of the court. Just takes your vision a second. The ball quickly goes through that zone and you have to adjust. That's so well done.
That is massive. Had to be, because it committed so much.
Well, when you go that far outside the court, as he's well into the alley here, you leave so much space open that you have no other option but to pull the trigger, and pull the trigger he does, setting up a second break opportunity here. Important for Tien to find another first serve.
Deuce.
Guys, I feel like if Learner Tien wins this game, this crowd might erupt. I mean, he got up to that shot, made it for a winner, and the crowd got super juiced. Big first serve coming up here.
Expect to see him go back wide. He just used the changeup nicely, the Sonego forehand. I would expect to see him go back to the backhand.
Deuce.
It's funny how the nets this week have been largely dead. Not seen too many where the ball has clipped the net and then kind of sat up.
Well, someone needs to go crank that thing.
Advantage, Sonego.
The big strike off that wing. Winners off the forehand side, up to 19 now for Sonego.
Well, sometimes just a little luck opens the door and he catches the top of the tape on that game point, and Tien finds himself immediately back under pressure.
Deuce. Legs for serve. Advantage, Tien.
I love the resilience from this young American. Maturity well beyond his years. So good.
Game Tien.
Learner Tien with a 1-2 punch
Tien
of
leads
his
4
own.
games to 1.
And he's got himself a 4-1 lead in the third.
And look, that's the experience that we're talking about from Tien. Despite being such a young age, having won so many matches, he finds himself, after saving several break points, with a game point opportunity, extremely unlucky as Sonego catches the top of the net and that game extends on, and then he has to face another break point, but showing no sign of emotion, just all positivity, and leading to this incredibly struck forehand inside out. Love to see everything he's injecting into that ball. good extension.
Time.
Nick, if I give you an over-under of 40 for Learner Tien's ranking at the end of the year, what are you giving me?
Sorry, you said an over-under of what there?
If I give you Learner Tien as a ranking end of the year,
Yep.
40,
Yep.
are you going over or under?
I'm going under. I think the guy's going to be inside the top 40. I think he's got the game. I love his mentality. I mean, he's a winner. You know, he's shown that he can beat the top players in Medvedev. He hung with him from the baseline for 5 sets. And when you can do that against Medvedev and then also go out and back it up the next round, I feel like he's going to be inside the top 40 at the end of the year.
You agree?
Yeah, Nick,
15
I'm with you. I
love.
think that one of the things we talked about with those wins he put up together last year, he had so many wins in a row, and a lot of those wins that happen, you have to learn how to win when you're not playing your best stuff out there. And that's something that he's done really well early on in his career. I love that he's able to find solutions and problem solve, even when he doesn't have his A game. I think that's going to really help that ranking go in the right direction.
Yeah, and look, you know, when we're talking about him being a
15-all.
winner, I mean, he broke his rib in January of 2024 when he was serving, and then he came back after at least 4 months away and won 28 matches in a row amongst futures and challengers. And you don't just do that. That's not something that's easily done. And again, he just knows how to problem solve, as you said, Ryan, his way through matches. And also, this experience here at Australian Open is going to tell him and show him that he can do it.
And Nick, does that also mean no points to defend
30,
here for a little
15.
while?
Yeah, I'd have to double check to see what he had, but yeah, I mean, that means no points to defend for quite a while, because that's when he broke his rib. He was out 4 months, and then and then went on an absolute tear of 28 matches.
He was playing futures, wasn't he, for a while, of course, when he did come back last year. In May last year, he was playing $15,000 futures.
I mean, that is ridiculous. To be
40,
at the
50.
futures level 8 months ago,
Yep.
and to be in the second week of a Grand Slam and doing it without a wild card, coming through qualifying and earning his way through, it's remarkable. It really is remarkable.
Game, Sonego.
Yeah, and a completely different game style, but there's definitely
10
parallels
links
with
for
Ben
games to
Shelton's
2.
rise, aren't there? Ben Shelton was a very similar story in terms of how quickly Ben made that transition. Of course, it was here 2 years ago that he made a massive breakthrough.
Absolutely. And different game styles, yes, but the confidence and the matches won. We talked about Shelton at that stage in his career, how he was mounting together win after win. He progressed through the challenger circuit rapidly. I believe it was the end of 2022 that we saw Shelton win 3 challenges in a row to start the year, to end the year before he came on that Australian Open tear. I want to say the 3 American challengers at the end of the year indoors.
Correct.
Was it 3 in a row?
Yeah, and I think it
15
also
all.
helps for Learner Tien to have his good buddy Alex Mikkelsen doing so well as well, right? A guy that he's trained together with Eric Diaz, and you know, just to have that kind of guy to say, you know what, you're ready for the big time.
Yeah, Alex plays Alex de Minaur this evening in the last match on Rod Laver.
That's well done by the Italian. He's so quick in transition. I love how quickly he gets inside the service line.
13.
When you see a guy with a double hand backhand go to the single hand, it's important that you get in quickly. And watch this first step burst. He's well inside the service line, sliding into that backhand volley. So well done.
And we can't forget to mention Jay Levitt as well, another coach that Learner Tien works with along with Eric Diaz. I mean, both of those coaches have been helping Tien, helping Mikkelsen. Now Mikkelsen obviously doing some work with Robbie Ginepri, but there are a lot of skills in those two players now.
Yeah, it takes a village, doesn't it?
So his return is not quite as effective as it was in the early part of this match. And giving him some different looks. And he may be struggling, but he is fighting hard.
Tien leads 5 games to 2.
And he is 1 game away from halving the deficit here on John Cain.
Well, he's done really well making these first serves when he's down in some of these games. The previous service game to that one, he had to stave off a couple break points and was able to find first serves on all of them. And just there, 15-30, finds 3 first serves in a row. And when you have won so many matches in recent memory, as we talked about, that quick fire through the futures and challengers onto the mainstay ATP Tour. And he's won 63 matches last year, just playing very well under pressure.
Time.
Yeah, this guy's tennis is cut from a slightly different cloth from a lot of the modern day players. I feel like the conversations around power and speed off the ground, of big serving, are very much at the forefront of men's tennis, but Learner Tien does it his own way. He does it effectively.
Well, it was Rafael Nadal who said knowing how to win is a talent, and a different talent entirely than we talk about with the flash and flair of these guys who have these big, huge serves.
Yeah, this guy's in that category. Sonego serving to stay in the set.
Fifteen love.
Out.
30 love.
Well, he won't be wanting to play too many long rallies, knowing that it's a big uphill battle from 2 sets to love down. You don't want to find yourself running side to side when you're setting up to serve for a set. So shortening the point.
40 love.
And the reason being is, one, the physicality that's going to take if he wants to stay out there for another couple hours, and also you don't want to put any extra stress on that hamstring in a game where you are about to have to serve the set. He'll be really focusing on that next service game from here.
Game's gonna go. New balls, please. We'll change.
And the bonus is you'll have some new balls to work with as well.
Tien leads 5 games to 3.
There's the total distance run over the course of each set, as we saw the total distance run for the tournament for Lerner earlier on. It was substantial.
Well, with these new balls here, it affords him the luxury of not having to be perfect with the first serve placement. The ball does a lot more bite off the court. And what that allows you to do is have a little bit bigger margin, because the movement on the ball after the bounce starts to bite quite a bit more, and it just moves those extra couple inches off the court, and you don't feel like you have to hit the sideline with your serve in order to be effective.
Seen him employ that all too often.
15 all.
There was some space to work with.
That there was, and it's this strike here that pushes the Italian back, and you can see he's well back behind the court, and that's what makes this drop shot possible. You don't have to hit the drop shot perfectly in the court positioning so far back.
30-15.
Let's have a look at the forehand speeds that have gone up considerably, Ryan, in this third set.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that early on as you saw him going defense to offense, and that's just him wanting to play a bit more offensively as the Italian was controlling him around the court for much of the first 2 sets.
11K difference from sets 2 to 3. That is significant.
Oh, how good was that?
40-13.
It was such an awkward return. He really executed that serve nicely, hit the spot he was hoping for in a really uncomfortable position, but he gets up there quickly, snaps the forehand cross court, as we were just noting the speed on it. Sets up set point for the American.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Later.
It's one hell of an effort from Learner Tien. Physically compromised, but boy, is this young man tough. He has halved the deficit here on John Cain. He takes the third, 6-3.
Well, guys, I got to say, I mean, how impressive was that from Learner Tien? You know, we know he's hampered with the hamstring, but, you know, his name is pretty interesting. His first name, Learner's, inspired by his mom's profession, because she was a math teacher. And actually, his sister's name is Justice, from his father's profession as an attorney. But one thing is, Learner definitely learned what worked in that third set. He's got to play a bit bigger on the forehand.
I believe his mum and dad
30
actually
love.
met on a tennis court, didn't they? His dad, when he first came over, was a teaching pro for a short while.
Yeah, unbelievable lob there from Sonego, but just to button that up, yeah, you're right. And Lerner started playing tennis when he was a toddler and won his first tournament at the Racket Club at Irvine at the age of 5. So that's pretty impressive to win your first tournament at the age of 5. I don't think you did that, Ryan.
Game, Sonego. First game, fourth set.
Nick, I always find it fascinating as well because we've obviously been in this sport a long time, and I often hear people say, oh, he's a great competitor, he's a great competitor. And yet, in many ways, if you're on the outside of this sport looking in, you kind of think that was a given, wouldn't you? But it's not the case, right? And can you learn to become a good competitor, or do you think that's just innate? That's how you're made? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it could go both ways, right? I mean, I think if you have the right, parents, right mentorship around you to, work with you, and also it's about the work you put in, right? The harder you work in practice, the more you're going to compete in the match, the more you're going to trust yourself and your skills. But if you don't work hard in practice, I mean, there's no way when you get to a moment like this, if Learner Tien hadn't put in the preseason work that he did with Rodney Marshall in Carson, California, he wouldn't be ready for this moment. But again, the harder you work, the more ready you stay. But, for Learner Tien, I mean, winning a tournament when he was 5 years old, I mean, just kind of, it's already been embedded in him as far as, being a winner and trusting himself. And again, he never looks rushed. He never looks bent out of shape, just always so calm.
Yeah, I saw a great quote the other day. It said, the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in war. So that was a nice one.
Yeah, I've got that one written down on my phone. I absolutely love that quote. And, again, we talk about the 5 weeks that he did with Mickelson and Fritz, Svajda, Garreau, the preseason work in LA. And, again, you put in that work, you're willing to go the distance.
Oh.
That's beautifully done. And yeah, guys, to kind of piggyback on that, I've seen at times, and even at this level, where some people will kind of reach that mode. I call it like a half tanking mode, where they start to swing for the fences and they try to minimize the pressure they're feeling in the moment by telling themselves, I don't care, or, whatever, let's just let it fly. But large in part, you see most of the time the success coming from the guys who go with the more practice makes perfect. The fail to prepare to fail sort of mentality. And we've seen Learner Tien be able to come up with some really timely first serves and down break points in the third set, and we'll see if he can find a couple first serves here in the early stages of the fourth. This is a really pivotal moment.
so. And Sonego
leads 2
is able to push on at the beginning of this fourth set.
Yeah, I think that game from Sonego, you know, look, he took it more of his time, right? He didn't try to rush the rally, didn't try to finish it by the second or third ball. He knows Learner Tien isn't moving all that well, so that's when you just need to move the ball around, wait for the right opportunity to go for the right ball, as he did there.
Yeah, we saw in that game, Learner Tien only 1 for 5 from first serves, not getting a single free point on serve.
Oh.
$15 left.
Nick, how's the energy level down there? Can you see Tien just looking a little bit like an energy lull? Just from up here, it looks a bit like his shoulders have dropped a bit. Are you seeing the same thing down there courtside?
Oh.
You know, Ryan, maybe a little bit of an energy dip, but again, I mean, I commentated his match against Medvedev in the second round, and those guys were battling over 4 hours, and he looked like this as well, right? And it's one of those things where he stays calm. It's almost like he's, you know, he's still in it and trying to just figure his way, but he's never going to be a guy that's bouncing on his toes all the time or running around the court, you know, showing that extra energy. He's going to just kind of stay well within himself, and he's definitely still engaged.
Yeah, definitely a different personality than, let's say, the guy that we're going to see later tonight in Alex de Minaur against the other young American. And de Minaur always looks like he's walking and bouncing on his toes and constantly looks like he's jumping up and down. It's like a human battery pack, de Minaur.
Game Sonego.
That's won 12 of the first 13
Sonego
points in this fourth set. And Lorenzo Sonego has the impetus once again, 3-love. This was the point in which he wanted to be at a break.
It was that backhand strike and then almost hitting the exact same spot there. As we talked about, the forehand being such a big weapon, but in order to not get exposed, he has to get good depth on the backhand. And when he's getting good depth on the backhand, he's able to move around and hit quite a few forehands to the next ball.
On the brink of a new milestone in his career here, Lorenzo Sonego. Having 29 years of age so far, not made the last 8 of a major, but he is looking good for that now.
Well, that's why it's so
15
important
love.
for Tien to do exactly what he did in the first set, which was keep it at 1 break. And it wasn't until the very end of the first set in that last service game that you saw Sonego blink a bit and have to stave off a few break points. It is possible if you're able to keep this scoreline close enough that that scoreboard pressure can cause him to blink a bit, especially with him having never ascended to that stage of the quarterfinals in a major before. And you're having to fight off all those thoughts that could enter your mind, the
30.
points that you could think about, the money difference between this match. I mean, this match would be for a few $100,000, which if you think about having to play 1 or 2 games for that kind of money, can put a lot of pressure on you, and you have to fight off all those intrusive thoughts that could take you off of the task at hand.
Read the forehand, didn't he?
Yeah, he's still living and dying by that forehand he's been ripping throughout the last set and a half, and love to see the body weight transfer. You can see his weight transferring forward and good racket head extension through the ball. Well, this feels like a virtual match point. If he's not able to fight off this break point and he gets down the double break, you feel like that mountain would be too tough to surmount.
Deuce.
You've got to find it, everything in you here to see if you can keep this 1 break.
Advantage, Sonego.
You're seeing the Italian use a bit more variety as well. When you got a guy teeing off the way that Tien is, you don't want to give him the same repetitive ball that he can get a rhythm on. So using that slice and mixing up the spins.
Deuce.
Not been too many of those over the course of the fortnight. Just his 6th ace. Just been reliably informed that Lerner has now spent the most time on court of any player here, 14 hours and 10 minutes to this point over the course of the Australian Open. Been industrious. Just got enough of a look at it, didn't he?
Sonego leads 3 games
Sonego's
to 1.
finest drop shot of his career. And Tien's on the board.
But that is so well done from the young American, and you see him having a little quick chat with his box in the corner. But to understand the moment and understand that he has to try and do everything he can to keep that at 1 break, as we were just saying, and is able to successfully navigate that potentially insurance break.
Love. 30 love.
It's 7 of 10 first serves in this fourth set as the Italian.
And yet to drop a point on serve in this entire set.
Cranking up the pace as well. Look at the average first serve speed. It's lifted for Sonego of late.
Well, at the beginning of the match, we were talking about him being a momentum player, and that proving to be true here as he senses the moment, is not letting up at all. Not a single point against his serve in the fourth set.
His good friend Jannik Sinner is already through to the quarterfinals. This man looking to join him. A couple of games away, 4-1. The winner of this match will take on the winner of Shelton and Monfils. I can tell you that Shelton's up a set over there on MCA right now. Sinner having gone through in 4, beating Holger Rune earlier on.
Monfils having that incredible win over Taylor Fritz in the previous round, and what a story, him and Svitolina both taking out number 4 seed on the same day.
First meeting between these two. It's been a fun one, despite the limitations that Learner Tien has obviously suffered physically. He has hung tough.
Sorry.
Thank you, please ready. Love 15.
Sinner Sonego, excuse me, looking to become the 6th Italian man in history to reach the Australian Open quarterfinals. Sinner, of course, and Berrettini in recent years. Cristiano Karate, remember him back in the early 90s?
I do.
And then you're going back further, Nicola Pietrangeli, of course, the legend.
Karate lived in the States.
15, 13.
For a bit. I got to know him a little bit just through living in the U.S.
Just feels as though the tank is running dry. The body is saying no, and he has hung so tough throughout this tournament.
Game Sonego.
But it looks as though
Sonego leads 5 games to 1.
his journey is about to come to an end.
It seems like he did everything he could to make a match out of this in the early stages there, that third set, and then just couldn't quite find the first serve here in the fourth set to make this an interesting one. The Italian man has had 0 let up, sensing the finish line and keeping his energy level up.
15 love.
Well, his coach talked about the more aggressive mindset they've tried to adopt this year, and that really has been in evidence today.
Fifteen all.
He's the man who's currently guiding Sonego's career. Fabio Colangelo.
You just have to wonder, as you talked about that coaching change and how much his previous coach meant to him and how difficult that must have been. And you obviously could see the heartfelt message and how pivotal his previous coach was in his life, but to be having success this early on into new heights after making that little change.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure Gipo Arpino is very proud as well of being such a big part of this journey too.
Absolutely. That's not to take anything away from Gipo. Obviously, this man is where he is because of that, and then you just have to figure out a way to see if you can be there for the person you grow to love and care about so much, and the Italian now 1 point away from the quarterfinal.
Lorenzo Sonego is into the last 8 of a major for the very first time in his career. Some words of consolation and some words of care, it seemed, as well, towards the American team, who's had a phenomenal fortnight. But this man prevails and becomes the 6th Italian male in history to reach the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. He's broken new ground. He's through in 4.
And please show your appreciation from the United States.
Well, just seeing him soak in the moment gives me goosebumps, actually, watching him after working so hard, and the resilience to find his way in the moment. You can see him showing the concern.